If you're operating in the modern corporate environment, you already see how incredibly fast the workplace is changing. But here's the thing. Understanding how to actually communicate within it, that's your ultimate competitive advantage. So today, in this Business Explainer, we aren't just looking at how to manage across borders. We're going to actively expand your professional English vocabulary along the way. Let's dive right in. Managing multicultural teams, the global business reality. Right off the bat, we're faced with a really fascinating paradox. Why do so many highly skilled global teams fail to communicate effectively? Think about it. We've got access to incredible video technology, instant messaging, even real-time machine translation. Yet despite all these massive advances, bringing top talent together across borders literally often leads to severe friction. Misunderstandings happen every single day, projects just stall out, and the frustration, it really builds up. To understand why this happens, let's look at our first crucial piece of business vocabulary: multinational. It simply means involving or operating in several nations or nationalities. And listen, today's organizations are truly multinational out of pure necessity. Demographic trends, like retiring baby boomers, are shrinking native-born workforces in so many countries. So companies are heavily relying on offshore employees and skilled immigrants to fill critical labor gaps, especially in high-demand fields like IT and healthcare. Now, let's explore another vital concept: ambiguity. This is the quality of being open to more than one interpretation, or simply put, inexactness. In a local office, a slight misunderstanding is usually fixed by a quick chat by the coffee machine. But in a global economy, executives have to ensure every single message is received clearly, without any ambiguity or distortion. Because honestly, when ambiguity creeps into multinational teams, the results are pretty disastrous. And the cost of that ambiguity is incredibly severe. Research from the Swiss firm Slater shows that large global companies lose between 7 and 10 million euros annually. Why? Because of delayed projects, misunderstood contracts, and failed negotiations. To put that into perspective, that is a staggering amount of money just vanishing because communication broke down. It's not just some soft HR issue. Poor cross-cultural communication directly hits the bottom line and seriously damages an organization's reputation. So, what's causing this? Well, one of the biggest hidden barriers to clear communication is nuance. Nuance is a subtle difference in or shade of meaning, expression, or sound. When you're interacting through a video screen, nonverbal communication and regional language nuances can severely slow down comprehension. You miss those subtle sighs, the slight hesitations, or the specific cultural context of a phrase. And that makes parsing the true meaning of a conversation incredibly difficult. The absolutely crucial point here is understanding how different cultures handle that nuance. Let's compare high-context and low-context cultures. Professionals from high-context cultures like India, Japan, and China, they tend to communicate indirectly. They rely heavily on gestures, pauses, and facial expressions. For instance, in India, saying yes may just mean "I hear what you are saying," not necessarily "I agree." Compare that to low-context cultures like Scandinavia, the US, or Germany, where communication is explicit, direct, and taken completely literally. You can see how easily a German manager and an Indian developer might misinterpret each other's commitments, right? Beyond cultural context, everyday language itself is kind of a minefield, specifically because of our next vocabulary word: idiom. An idiom is a phrase whose meaning cannot be understood from the literal definitions of the words. A US professional might enthusiastically tell their global team they hit it out of the park, or a Russian speaker might say when the crayfish whistles on the mountain. These linguistic shortcuts absolutely confuse translation software and can completely alienate the non-native speakers on your call. Okay, let's move to something a little more subtle but highly damaging: accent bias. This is prejudice or stereotyping based on the way someone pronounces words. Even when team members speak the exact same language fluently, heavily accented speech makes it a bit harder for a listener's brain to process the information. Unfortunately, this can cause listeners to doubt the speaker's credibility, make inaccurate assumptions, or even negatively impact hiring and promotion decisions for highly qualified candidates. There's just no room for that. And the pressure to adapt is immense. A recent study found that 80% of international professionals link their English proficiency directly to their earning potential. But while mastering business English is undeniably crucial for your career advancement, the burden of communication just cannot rest solely on the non-native speaker. It has to be shared. Forward-thinking companies are now implementing inclusive listening training, helping everyone tune their ears to unfamiliar speech patterns and actively share the responsibility of understanding. Which brings us to the role of management. As the author Erin Meyer beautifully puts it, If the team leader clearly understands how people from varied backgrounds behave, he or she can turn differences into the team's greatest assets. Overcoming these hurdles requires highly intentional leadership. It's all about taking those potential cultural disconnects and actively transforming them into your organization's primary competitive advantage in the global market. To actually do that, leaders need our next essential concept, cultural intelligence, or CQ for short. This is the capability to relate and work effectively across cultures. Now, what's absolutely vital to note here is that CQ goes far beyond simple cultural awareness. It's not just knowing that a cultural difference exists, it's possessing the deep understanding and the active skills required to navigate those differences successfully in high-pressure business environments. Let's quickly break down the 4 dimensions of cultural intelligence. First up, metacognitive awareness, actually planning and thinking about your cultural interactions before they happen. Second, cognitive knowledge, knowing the real cultural norms and practices of your team. Third, motivational confidence, having the genuine drive and interest to engage in cross-cultural situations. And finally, behavioral adaptation, the ability to seamlessly adjust your verbal and nonverbal behaviors to suit the specific needs of your diverse team. That's where true innovation happens. A really critical part of exercising that cultural intelligence is tackling unconscious bias. These are social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form completely outside their own conscious awareness. A culturally intelligent manager actively works to identify and mitigate these biases, both in themselves and in their team. Because if left unchecked, unconscious bias leads to overlooked contributions, derailed timelines, and deeply flawed hiring decisions. By actively managing those biases, leaders create psychological safety. This is an absolutely vital term for modern management, guys. It's the belief that an employee will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or even mistakes. In a multicultural team, establishing a calm, transparent environment where all voices feel respected and heard, that is literally the only way to ensure that critical information flows freely up the chain of command. But building that safe environment requires understanding the profound difference between equality and equity. Equality means treating everyone exactly the same. Sounds fair, right? However, equity acknowledges that not everyone actually has the same starting point. Equity is about recognizing those different starting points and providing the tailored, specific support necessary so that everyone has a truly fair chance to succeed. So how do we build systems that actually level the playing field? Well, companies committed to fostering equity follow these crucial steps. First, they systematically address and train against that unconscious bias we talked about. Second, they provide cross-cultural mentorship to support new or diverse team members. And third, they fiercely ensure equitable project opportunities, making absolutely sure that high-visibility projects and leadership roles are accessible to everyone, regardless of their cultural or linguistic background. When you implement these inclusive leadership practices, you directly impact our next vocabulary word, retention. This is the ability of an organization to keep its employees and actively reduce turnover. In today's highly competitive labor market, recruiting top-tier global talent is incredibly expensive. Inclusive communication and high cultural intelligence are proven to drastically improve employee retention, keeping your absolute best people engaged and loyal. Ultimately, the return on investment for all this effort is undeniable. Research indicates that firms that successfully manage high cultural diversity and foster true inclusion are up to 36% more profitable than their less diverse competitors. That's huge. Diversity isn't just a compliance checkbox. When you purposefully harness it through skilled management, it becomes a massive driver of financial success. Well, we hope this explainer has helped you deeply understand the complex, yet highly rewarding dynamics of global teamwork. By mastering concepts like cultural intelligence, ambiguity, and equity, you're doing so much more than just expanding your professional English toolkit. You're truly preparing yourself to lead at the highest levels of international business. So, I want to leave you with this provocative question. Which of today's business vocabulary words are you going to use in your next meeting? Drop your favorite new term in the comments below. We would absolutely love to hear how you plan to apply it. And hey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The English Effect for more premium business explainers that'll keep you right ahead of the curve. Keep learning, keep adapting, and we'll see you next time.